Black patriarch.
Africa's supposed to be welcoming their arms to us this year. We have, a lot of ceremonies going on in different parts of the continent. For example, Ghana. I know a sister who has the organization Kinshasa Initiative that's trying to push a year of return celebration inside of Tanzania. So there are different African countries that are welcoming Blacks back, right? This year of all years, why is it that this year of all years there's been this mass movement to distance us from Africa? And think about it. I mean, I've never seen so much like xenophobia from African people more than I have this year. I've never seen as much anti-African rhetoric on the internet or whatever. I've never seen so much as this year.
Tonight's topic is just dealing with the lies and deceit of the West, and Pan-Africanism is the only solution moving forward.
Last night, we were the only show in all of cable news to bring you the story of hundreds upon hundreds of Congolese immigrants being dropped off in San Antonio after crossing the border. But for many of them, that is not the final stop. San Antonio's assistant city manager, Dr. Colleen Bridger, revealed this to a local CBS station. Quote, "The plan was 350 of them would travel from San Antonio to Portland, as in Portland, Maine. When we reached out to Portland, Maine, they said, please don't send us any more. We're already stretched way beyond our capacity." In Portland alone, asylum seekers who are primarily from African countries make up 90% of the people living in the city-run family and overflow shelters.
New at 6, the number of mostly Congolese asylum seekers who've arrived in San Antonio so far this week is now nearly 600 and counting. Before they leave for wherever they're headed, Jesse Degollado says a local Congolese family is among those trying to make them feel welcomed with home-cooked meals.
For those who come from so far, it's hoped that food like this will mean far more than just getting a taste of home.
Some comfort, just knowing somebody cares that they're here.
Yet it saddens her seeing these Congolese asylum seekers, especially the women and children.
We're probably the richest country in the planet, and we're among the poorest.
Some of those in San Antonio may be among this group of 116 braving a slippery dam in the Rio Grande with children in their arms.
Yeah, that's how they cross. They just hold each other's hands, so it's a long line.
Bosco Miller says asylum seekers have described seeing others traveling with them through Brazil, Ecuador, and Mexico die while crossing rivers.
This is the consequence of not having a democratic country in the Congo.
Those already here, he says, are a fraction of what's to come.
We have more. There's more coming, and probably much bigger, much larger.
Downtown San Antonio's bus station just got a little busier as hundreds of migrants from the Congo and Angola arrive in the Alamo City.
We didn't get a heads up.
Dr. Colleen Bridger, the interim assistant city manager, says the Congolese migrants started coming in on Tuesday and said they traveled with a group of about 350 migrants through Ecuador to the southern border.
When we called Border Patrol, they said, yeah, probably another 200 to 300 from the Congo and from Angola will be coming to San Antonio.
That includes Masenji, a Congolese migrant who didn't want his face on camera but told me via Google Translate he came to America for security reasons and said, quote, "My family is staying in my country, but with the help of the USA, I can get him back." But this language barrier is why the city is in desperate need of French-speaking volunteers to help get many of these individuals to their final destination.
If you speak primarily French, that would be really helpful.
Wednesday alone, the Migrant Center saw a total of 450 people, Spanish and French speaking, during the day and housed 375 of them at Travis Park Church at night. The city opened up the Frank Garrett Center to house the Congolese migrants for the weekend, but after that, they're not sure where they'll put them, especially since they don't know how long some of them will be here.
The plan was 350 of them would travel from San Antonio to Portland. When we reached out to Portland, Maine, they said, please don't send us anymore. We're already stretched way beyond our capacity. So we're working with them now to identify other cities throughout the United States where they can go and begin their asylum seeking process.
As the refugee crisis grows and the Trump administration takes hold of immigration policies, conversations around immigrants often fail to acknowledge Black immigrants in their narratives. Black immigrants represent an increasing percentage of Black people in the United States as a whole. Black immigrants now account for nearly 10% of the nation's Black population. Black immigrants from African and Caribbean countries comprise the majority of the foreign-born Black population. Jamaica was the top country of origin in 2014, accounting for 18% of the national total. Haiti seconds the list, making up 16% of the U.S. Black immigrant population. For more information on Black immigrants, visit baji.com. I'm Marit Mohammed. This is Woke Up Late.
Culture has never had the space to hold a piece of itself as sacred. What I mean is, in the way that other communities and cultures can say, you cannot do that, or at the very least, you cannot do that without me bringing you into the fold because you're not from here, we don't seem to have that same cultural privilege. African Americans, a community that's been in America since like the 1600s, can we just say your parents have to be Black? Historically, proximity to European phenotypes has pushed a swath of light-skinned, mixed-race Black people to the upper echelon, to the top, to the forefront. Are we supposed to keep them out? Remember that none of us are consistent with who we say can be Black. We're never consistent with our phenotyping. And to stay on topic, what if a person has 2 or 3 mixed race grandparents, landing them at technically less than 50%, even though they present as Black? If we wanted to make a sacred space for our culture and ethnicity, how are we defining those guidelines in a way that's consistent and universally applicable? How do we define those guidelines without tail spinning into a constant point of frustration and arguments amongst ourselves?
Wondering, yes, you landed on the right channel. You still found me. It's still me. This is Jess Latasha. You guys are on my channel, but things are different today. I'm joined by my girls. We're going to be having some fun today, talking about diversity and Blackness. And let me introduce you to who I got here with me today. This is Khadijah, my Jamaican queendom. You guys know this lovely lady right here. I've been featured on her show multiple times from the Grapevine TV. This is Ashley Akuna, my Nigerian queen.
Niger.
And of course, all the way to my left is Miss Kat, who is representing the Afro-Latina. And what I wanted to do today is celebrate Blackness and celebrate how we're all different while being Black.
Happy Independence Day.
Happy Independence.
What's happened? There's been a coup.
What's happening in Lagos?
This is our beginning. The only authentic identity for an African is his tribe. I'm a Nigerian because the white man created Nigeria and gave me that identity.
You be Hausa?
No, Yoruba.
So you can marry Igbo?
Not Igbo.
Why not?
I'm a Muslim anyway, but Igbo. There some reasons I don't like marrying Igbo. Even if I have the opportunity, I don't like marrying Igbo.
So now only Yoruba if you marry, both of them.
Yes, we understand each other. Same language, same ethics, same everything.
Today's video is all about tribalism in Ghana, because it is really, really deep here. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. The tribalism here is real. Those tribes tend to stick together. So like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that to a degree, but it becomes a problem when you favor people over other people just because of the tribe that they're from.
South Sudan only gained independence from the north in 2011, but now the world's youngest country has already slipped into civil war. The government claimed that the vice president, Riek Machar, tried to launch a coup against the president, Salva Kiir, and when that failed, fled north to begin the Bush rebellion. The rebels claim, with some accuracy, that the Kiir government has consolidated power into the hands of the dominant Dinka tribe, threatening the transition to true democracy. What is known is that thousands of people have been killed, hundreds of thousands of civilians have fled their homes, and that both sides have committed major human rights abuses, including the murder of civilians along tribal fault lines.
Well, I would say that there are many experiences of being Black in America. That's probably always been true, but is maybe more true now. So if there's change, that change is probably toward multiplicity of experience.
What were the relations like between Black Americans, Caribbean Americans, and African Americans on campus?
Well, on campus, it was great in the sense that because we were such a small group, there was definitely a cohesive group, right? We were all, for the most part, almost all of us were members of the Pan-African Alliance, which on most university campuses is called the Black Student Association, but for various reasons it had gone through different name changes. But when I was there, certain students broke off and formed the African Student Association, and other students broke off and formed the Caribbean Students Association. But what I found fascinating is that they never gave up their membership with the Pan-African Alliance.
Interesting.
So we were always one large group of Blacks, but every now and again, certain ethnic priorities took precedence.
Right.
There's a new romantic comedy series coming to CBS by the title Bob Hearts Abishola. And when I first saw this, I was like, record scratch, time out. dad a Nigerian name. Bob Hart's a Nigerian. Oh, word? If you guys don't know, like if it wasn't obvious at this point, I am a Nigerian American. Both of my parents were born and raised in Nigeria.
You are the weirdo. So where are you from? Nigeria.
Wow. That's a heck of a commute, huh? Hello, Abishola.
Hello, Kemi.
Who is this? Yeah. So you're telling your friends about me, huh? Hey, she's wearing my socks.
Off the rip, I do want to say that having like authentic Nigerians on American screens, I think that is just so amazing.
Hey sis, what's good? What's poppin'? It's me, Ume, and today we're gonna talk about a new show called Bob Hart's Abishola. So let's get into it. First of all, I'm happy that they hired a real Nigerian woman, and also they hired the mother. I know for a fact is also Nigerian. She's been on a couple of British shows already. So they also have the main character who is very Nigerian. I love that her accent isn't forced. Her accent is a real Nigerian accent. She pronounces her name correctly. Like, that's my thing. Ever since I watched Hotel Rwanda, I watched the show Concussion with the movie Concussion with Will Smith, and other, like, you know, shows like that portray African people. It's never really African. So this is great that, you know, the cast, the creators are actually tapping into real talent from the actual place that they're trying to portray, which is great. It shows that they are interested in portraying accuracy. They're interested in also employing people from the exact culture.
There are a lot of black British actors that work
all
in
the
this country.
time.
All the time. All the time. So some brothers from America that could have been in that movie.
I was really disappointed with those comments.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, we are dissected as a people. Why dissect us even further by a comment as stupid as that? Black actors, if you like, all over the world, look at Samuel Jackson as an example of a great actor who happens to be black. So the idea that he can dissect us into, well, English actors that are black are stealing roles from American actors is really ignorant, and is the stuff made of things that divide us, not stuff that pulls us together.
I want to talk to you about two issues that have been coming up recently in this 2020 campaign. The first one, it seems like every Democratic presidential candidate has been asked about reparations. I have not seen it. I have not seen this happen so much, so frequently in my lifetime. But so they are asked if they're in favor of reparations for the descendants of African American slaves. Let's say they Democrats get in power and they push through this reparations. How do you actually do it? Like, how do you know who is descendant of who? Like, how do you know who is descendant of who? That's the thing I don't get.
The reality is that slavery reparations per se are completely unworkable. Even big advocates of it, like Ta-Nehisi Coates, have failed to come up with any actual metric for how exactly we'd go about doing that. What do you do with, for example, Barack Obama, whose father was black and not from the United States, and therefore not having history with slavery, and a mother who is white? Would his family receive slavery reparations? How about Kamala Harris, whose father is Jamaican and mother is Indian? Does she receive slavery reparations? From whom? Does she receive slavery reparations from me? My great-grandparents got here in 1907, long after slavery was over, and lived their entire lives in the North, where Jim Crow was not in effect. It's almost impossible. I think not almost. It is impossible to come up with a fair metric for recompensing slavery 10 generations after slavery's end. But again, it's going to be hard to determine who pays, who should get how much, and who receives.
Yeah.
Joining me today is a contributor for Canada's National Post, known here on the YouTube as My Name is Josephine. Josephine Matthias, welcome to the Rubin Report.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You're originally from Nigeria.
Yes.
Lived there for what, 8 or 9 years
9
before you moved to
years.
Canada? All right, let's get people to know you in your natural environment.
But Black Americans, contrary to popular belief, can hold widely diverse and opposing opinions on political issues. Maybe Kanye is a Republican. I mean, he's never referred to himself as such, of course, but he said something about Trump that wasn't severely negative, so he's suddenly the Black Paul Ryan. But even if he is, so what? In fact, a 2012 study by Vincent Hutchins and Hakeem Jefferson using data from the American National Election Studies found that 45% of Black Americans identify as conservatives. Despite this, however, the Democratic Party typically receives 85 to 95% of the Black American vote. The tendency of Black Americans to vote Democrat allows the Dems to believe that they have a strong hold on the Black American vote.
All right, so I think I picked that one because I think it's just a great example of what you do. There's information and facts, and it's kind of light too and fun and all that good stuff. Now, first off, though, as a Black Canadian talking about Black Americans, that's kind of racist, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think I've gotten a lot of comments of people saying, like, you don't understand what it's like to be Black in America. And it's like, oh my gosh, stop.
You are Black in America right now.
Yes, I am. I know. It's awful. I mean, I've been gunned down like 10 times. People are yelling the N-word at me. I mean, I feel so unsafe.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do get that criticism, which is annoying. We should all be allowed to talk about whatever we want.
Yeah.
This is a response to at least a small part of your video that was entitled "The Replacement of Black Americans Continues." In the first few minutes of the video, well, let me say it like this. It is good that some research was done. However, what is not good is that thorough analysis was not done. So I'm going to do that a little bit. I'm going to take it to the next level. Now, some people are not very good at mathematics, but mathematics is very, very important because when you start throwing numbers around, okay, you need to know what you're talking about. You need to know how to properly evaluate and analyze the numbers that you're throwing around. Now, let's look at this. Let's put this in context. That would mean that from the year 2000 until the year 2015, which is a 15-year period, there was, for African immigrants entering into the United States, their numbers would have been around 1.2 million. Exactly 1,219,000 over a 15-year period. Now, that would average out on and over the 15-year period to 81,266 immigrants from Africa, various African countries. You know, there are 54 African countries. Africa has nearly 1.2 billion people who came into the United States. Okay. Now, some of you would say, oh my God, T. West, that 81,266 is a very large number. No, it isn't.
Here's one more statistic for you. The most recent Census Bureau estimates say that between 2010 and 2013, black immigrants accounted for 25% of the growth in America's overall black population. 25% of the growth in America's overall black population.
Every 10 years, we must take a census of the population, but we do know that marginalized communities, which tend to be communities of color, usually don't fill out the census at the same rates as other communities.
So they're probably more than...
They're probably more, especially when it comes to African populations.
Okay.
Because many Africans are coming, not in the traditional migratory patterns that we've seen in the past with Caribbeans. Some are coming as asylum seekers, some are coming as refugees, some are coming as doctors and lawyers, whatever it may be, but we have a feeling that we're actually underrepresenting the number of Africans.
The title of my remarks is going to be on the changing racial and ethnic ancestry of blacks in the United States. And this, to a certain extent, gets to your question about what's the proper term. Is it black? Is it African American? Historically in the United States, there were very few voluntary descendants of Africa who came to the United States. The overwhelming majority of us were brought during chattel slavery. However, since the 1960s, we've seen an extraordinary increase in voluntary black immigration into the United States. And this is changing the racial, changing the ethnic ancestry of blacks in the United States. There's some very distinct differences between the cultural identity of black immigrants and the cultural identity of African Americans. And of course, their percentages are increasing at fairly significant numbers. So all of this seems to suggest that we are really watching some fundamental shifts in the traditional struggle of the African American in the United States, and in some real way.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Mosaic, an African-American perspective. I'm your host, Oheni Japong. Today, I'll be talking with Mr. Ni Akweta, a steering committee member of the African Immigrant Caucus based here in Montgomery County. He's here to share his extensive knowledge about building networks of Pan-African diaspora communities to speak with one voice in the United States and the importance of immigrant advocacy. Good morning, Mr. Akweta. Thank you for joining our show.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, the African American Immigrant Caucus, what is the purpose of that group and why was it formed?
Well, it was formed to bring together all the African immigrant community here. You know, the Census Bureau actually classifies a certain group of people as African-born. But beyond that, there are their family members, their spouses, children, friends. So we call that the African immigrant community. And we are not organized. We don't speak up compared to other groups, both on domestic issues and on foreign policy issues. So this has been eating at us for a long time, and then about a year ago, a number of visionary people led by Bishop Johnson came together and created the African Immigrant Caucus. Its purpose is to get all the African communities in the United States to come together forge unity and speak together with one voice on a host of issues, from foreign policy, U.S. relations with Africa, to domestic policy, how the community itself is faring here.
So we now have a certain group of Black people in America, African people, or Caribbean people who are being successful, at least academically. Mm-hmm. We now need to look at that and see how can we translate that into Black people being successful in, like, economically, so that we can bring other Black people into the conversation with us.
Well, let's use the grapevine as an example. Me being the host, me being African, you know, the two people that run it with me, Amanda, African American, and Donovan, Caribbean American. So I feel like we represent that trifecta of working together.
What's up, everyone? It's Edgy Roganade. I'm here at the first annual Afro Ball, hosted by the lovely Amplify Africa.
Shabby, you want banga to banga. Oh, go then baba.
What does African excellence mean to you?
I mean, I honestly think that Africa's been excellent for a long time, so it's nothing new. I think that now it's us embracing the excellence that's always been there. I do believe that we're in the African Renaissance, and we're seeing a rebirth, not just in arts and entertainment, but in all industries. You know, and I think that African excellence to me means that we are marking this as the beginning of the new African Renaissance.
African excellence is inherent in our being. Africa has so much to contribute to the world: culture, food, philosophy, ideas, new ways of looking at the world and how the world operates. And I think African excellence is showing the world that we acknowledge our brilliance.
African excellence means uplifting our culture, paying homage to our heritage and our history, and doing the work to move us forward socially, politically, economically on the continent from here.
Welcome to Capitol View, where we get to see who's changing the look of the city. The Cameroon American Council is building capacity, visibility, and relevance of the African community in the United States. Today, we get to see that process from a special point of view, Capitol View.
Hello there, I'm Sylvie Bello with the Cameroon American Council. I am the servant leader, I'm the founder of the Cameroon American Council, and I also am the CEO, and we're based right here in Washington, D.C. with 30 offices around the country. We're a national African immigrant advocacy organization. We are the leading African immigrant organization. So the Cameroon American Council, we have a very simple mission, which is to build capacity, to build relevance, and to build visibility in African immigrant organizations and communities right here in the great United States. We actually do have a wonderful resolution, which is right here. It's HR, which stands for House Resolution 371. And it was introduced by our wonderful friend, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who herself is a black immigrant. Both her parents are Jamaican Americans, and they were born in Jamaica, so she understands what it means to have that dual identity. So one of the challenges are the many challenges that affect us as black people in America, right? Challenges around education, disparity in education, in housing, disparity in jobs. And then as immigrants, one of the things we face are the challenges that affect us as immigrants, right? Language access, cultural sensitivity, having our papers, having mixed immigration status families. And as African immigrants, we have both of these challenges. So we are really a minority within a minority. 30 governors all across the United States, in states in which we have coordinators, our Cameroon American Council coordinators, put out proclamations back in 2011 stating that Africans contribute in their state. With that, we took these proclamations and in 2013 reached out to the one black immigrant Congress member, Yvette Clarke of New York, and asked her to introduce a resolution that states that National African Immigrant Heritage Month should be observed in September. One of the offices we're going to be going, Congresswoman Bunny Watson-Cole, actually had one of her fellows who is now working at the White House. We've had many Congress members, such as Congressman Donald Payne Jr., we've placed. So what we do is we place Africans and folks interested in African immigrant policy right here in Congress. That way they cannot say they don't know where the Africans are.
Hello, I'm Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke. I am proud to represent the people of New York's 9th Congressional District. Today, I'm delighted to deliver this week's Congressional Black Caucus message to America. I am proud to deliver this message during National Caribbean American Heritage Month. National Caribbean American Heritage Month reflects the strong, enduring, and everlasting ties between the United States and the community of nations in the Caribbean. Caribbean immigrants from founding father Alexander Hamilton of St. Kitts and Nevis to Secretary Colin Powell with parentage from Jamaica, Attorney General Eric Holder with parentage from Barbados, and my predecessor, the Honorable Shirley Chisholm, with parentage from both Guyana and Barbados, have shaped the America we know and love.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for coming. We've been doing this, and I guess I should say we, being the Democratic Haitian American Caucus of Florida, as well as the DHS. And I need, of course, to thank Dr. Pierre for putting both of those organizations together over the last few years at the Congressional Black Caucus. And the idea was to give information and advocate for Haitian American causes, as well as for the island itself.
A majority of the blacks you see in New York City are actually foreign born, so you're not actually interacting with African Americans, you're interacting with Nigerians, with Ghanaians, with Jamaicans. Their concern is about what's going on in Ghana, what's going on in Nigeria, not the struggles of African Americans.
I'm the bad guy. But I don't see the necessary need to bring everybody together, right? In the whole aspect of just, hey, everybody do away with your culture and just we're all gonna be right, because that's not fair to the Africans, the continental Africans. I think more or less I'm on board with what Seren led with saying, you know, as a Black American, we have our own ethnicity, we have our own culture, and we should expound upon that. Like, so let that be a community. Then also have the continental African community.
Why do you want the wall built?
We want the wall built because we are in a state that is colonized. We're in a state that's being colonized. Right now, we're down to 6% blacks in California. Illegal immigrants and immigrants have leveraged in Black communities and devastated us. I have been in this community all my life, and we're so shocked by how everyone is so supportive to bringing more people in, but they don't bring them in Beverly Hills. They don't bring them into Brentwood. They bring them into the Black community. The elderly people are being attacked by the MS-13s, and they're not talking about that. We are being not only marginalized, but they're basically taking us out so that we're no longer in existence. Our Black churches have nobody in the church anymore. Illegals have hurt Black communities. They don't help Black communities, and that's all we're saying. You fight for your right, and we fight for ours. If they're so great about their country, tell them to go back to their country. Tell them to fix Mexico. They abandoned their own people, and now they want to come after my people, and that's not right. Civil rights was built on the backs of Black people, not Latinos. I am not an immigrant.
My people helped build this country. Who the hell do you think you are? I'm not the one. My people built this damn country, not yours.
See, that's the thing. See, y'all want to play both sides of the damn fence, talking about you, your own tribe. Oh, we ain't about to give up our tribe. Well, damn it, don't bring that shit over here to us. Hold your own nuts then. Hold your own nuts, bruh. That's my thing. No, y'all make it seem like the African. No, we ain't hating on y'all. We're not hating on you. You dig? Let me I'm gonna bring him back. This is why I said no. Get this straight. Man.
Yo, I'm not niggas playing. All I'm saying is this, yo. Nah. Tariq, here's the thing, because here's the thing, you're guiding the question for an answer that I'm not even trying to get to, right? I'm not opposed, like I said, I'm not opposed to the move that y'all create. That is perfect. But that does not mean we have to abandon us. We could have an agenda, a common agenda, and work towards that. It doesn't have to be that why do we have to forfeit our identity to achieve a common goal? Why do we have to do that? The reality is we have the same oppression, we have parallel struggles, and why do we have to abandon our identity or forfeit our identity to fight a common goal? We don't have to do that.
Patriarch